Hey guys, Saturday morning here. I'm back in Salt Lake. I'm in the garage. It is actually April Fool's Day today, I think. So I was thinking maybe I could like fool you into thinking the Jeep is done, but then you might see it over my shoulder and realize nowhere near. But I won't mess with that. I do have all my little heaters going out here. It's not warm by any stretch of the imagination, but the garage is warm enough. I think I'll be able to work here. So today's first order of business is getting some U-joints in these drive shafts and seeing if I can get these things back up under the Jeep. And then I'll start tearing into kind of some of the rest of the stuff I can do without being able to paint. I mentioned it's April 1st. I just checked the weather. It's supposed to start snowing again tomorrow afternoon and snow for like 2 or 3 days again. Now, this is crazy. I mean, we're nothing like the Sierra Nevadas here, but Alta and Snowbird and Brighton ski resorts, I think, all three of them now have reached 800 inches of snow this year. 800 inches of snow. I remember kind of being blown away by the fact that I saw Brighton kind of said their average yearly snowfall, they used to advertise it, was like 575 inches of snow. 575 inches over the season was the average for a good year at Brighton. And this year it's 800 inches. Now the downside of that for all the skiers is most of the ski resorts have agreements with the Forest Service that they have to close on a certain day. And I think closing day is, you know, mid-April or something like that. So it's probably getting pretty close, but there's going to be snow up there for months. So, yeah, the weather is a little crazy, but I think I can get the garage warmed up enough here where I can get a little work done. So drive shafts today. Okay, let's see what we got here. The last time we were out here, I was painting these things. I had taken out the old U-joints on the front drive shaft. I've got new ones in the rear already, but, and then I put a coat of paint on everything. So here they lay on the bench. They've been here for several weeks now, so the paint is obviously well dry. On the front drive shaft here, I just put some blue tape over the greaser, so I'll pull that off. I'd kind of supported the end with a bungee cord here so I could keep it up off the cardboard while I painted it. So all that can go away. I can take my paint shield away, and then I'll start putting some U-joints in here. Again, I think I have them down in the cupboard down here. So I think I have what I got to do. Before I get started though, I do need to run up to Sam and Dylan's. I'm kind of sharing duties on dogs on both ends of the valley right now. So I don't know if I mentioned it, but when I was in Seattle, I took Lilu to a dog park up there one day. So there's a off-leash dog park that's up the hill from the marina. And the first 5 minutes went okay, and the second 5 minutes was a crazy scrum with her at the center of it once all the male dogs got a whiff of her. So I think she was getting pretty close to coming into heat. So in order to keep that from being the norm, I did what I knew I needed to do at some point. I took her in and got her spayed. So Sam and Dylan had to go over to Colorado for a couple of days, and I wasn't able to, I didn't feel like I could watch their dogs here, because when all three of them are together, Lilu just goes nuts and runs and runs and runs. And she's only about 3 days into post-surgery, so I'm supposed to be keeping her calm and not running around. And they put a whole like a t-shirt kind of thing on her now instead of the goofy collar. And this morning, I think she'd had enough of that thing. So the first pass I made to go check on Ruby and Toby, when I came home, she had torn the back end of that up and ripped all the buttons off it. So I think she's done wearing the t-shirt. So hopefully she won't be licking the stitches. But yeah, so Toby and Ruby are all alone up at Sam and Dylan's house. So I'm gonna run up there and kind of spend a little time with them, keep them company, take them for a walk maybe, and then I'll come back and tear into this, and then I'll go up again this evening and let them out again and feed them and all that kind of thing. So a lot going on, but I do expect to get a little work done. Now again, I'll keep the little heaters running here because it's not balmy out here in the garage yet, but I have a little respite, I think is the word, in the weather for today. Like I said, tomorrow I got the alert on my phone that said winter storm watch starting Sunday afternoon and going through like Wednesday again. So I don't know how much snow we're gonna have in the mountains, but boy, I'll tell you what, if it all melts in a week, we are gonna be swimming. So anyway, let's tear into it. Okay, normally when I'm working out here in the garage, I got my Tilly hat on. However, today I'm not gonna wear it because I got some over-the-ear headphones. Let me just briefly tell you what happened. I had a set of Apple AirPods that the kids got me for Christmas, and one day up on the boat, I was lifting the dog off the boat because the boat's, you know, like, I don't know, it's chest high or whatever, and stand on the dock. So I have to lift the dog off the boat onto the dock and onto the dock, from the dock up onto the boat. Anyway, I put the earbuds in, had the hat on, we're getting ready to go for a walk, and I knocked one of the earbuds out as I was lifting her off. And I thought it had already gone in the water. As it turns out, it was laying on my shoulder, but I turned and to bend over to look in the water, and there it went, ploop, down in the water. So I am, and so usually when I worked out here in the garage, I had one of those little Bluetooth Bose speakers, which works pretty darn good. It's a pretty good little speaker. It's about yay big. And that is on the boat up in Seattle right now, because that's my temporary stereo till I get the big one fixed. So I'm gonna let you look over my shoulder while I start to put some U-joints in here, but I'll be listening to a little, I think I got the Pink Floyd playlist going up here. So that's why you get to see my barreled noggin today. All right, guys, well, as I get started here, one thing I do want to point out. So as I was painting this, you know, a little bit of paint winds up going inside of where the cup on the universal joint goes. So I'm going to take a little light sandpaper and just clean those out. And then I will also, you probably can't see it, but there's a groove in there that your retainer ring goes into. So I'm going to sand that out a little bit, take a little bit of a paper towel and clean that groove out. Then I'll be ready to put a U-joint in there. There's my greaser, all not painted, ready to go. So let's do that. Okay, so here we go. We've got our end all cleaned up. You saw me take a screwdriver and clean out that ridge around in there because that's where my little retainer rings are going to go. So one thing that I've learned kind of probably the hard way over time is to pay close attention to the position of the greaser. If you look closely, you can see it's on one side of this U-joint, obviously. So as you're putting this thing together, obviously it's going to have to be, you know, against the yoke either on one side or the other. So it's not like you can have it not be close to the yoke. But what you do want to do is think about which end of this thing is going to be easiest to get to. This end of this drive shaft is either going to be in the yoke on the transfer case or the yoke on the front differential. And so I'm going to want to make sure that I put my greaser towards the center of the drive shaft to make it easier to get to it when it's in there all tipped up and ready to move the Jeep around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to carefully remove all of my caps, set them aside, being careful not to get any of the needle bearings loose inside of there. So you can see, maybe you can see, all the little needle bearings inside of that thing. You want to make sure all those needle bearings stay standing up in their proper position before you put this thing back together. I will say again from experience, it is possible to knock one of those loose and have it turn and lay sideways in the cup, so sideways against this end here. And if that happens, you will not be able to get that cap far enough back in to get your retaining clip in, which is telling you you're putting your U-joint back together the wrong way. So again, I'm going to take for sure at least 2 of these off. And I'm going to make sure that my grease zert is on the side of this U-joint facing the drive shaft. Okay? And then if we're lucky, this is going to go right through there like that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of push it to one side, start my cap on from that side so that I know all my little needle bearings are staying in shape there, and get it in there a little ways, and then I can slide the U-joint this way, without coming all the way out. I didn't want to come all the way out, so I'm going to just verify. Again, all my bearings are where they need to be. And I'll just tell you another little trick that I have learned is, if, you know, these are pre-greased a little bit, but you can take some extra bearing grease and poke in there and kind of help it keep those in place. But again, I think if you're careful, it's not too tough to get them in. So you just want to make sure this is far enough in there to make sure that none of those needle bearings can come out. And then we're going to slide this thing over this way a little bit, so that as I put this other bearing cap on, I can get it in far enough to get the U-joint inside of the bearings of that guy to keep them in place. And it's looking like I'm not going to quite get it this way. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the rubber mallet and I'm going to tap this guy in a little bit, making sure to kind of keep it good there. So the rubber mallet is behind the camera, so bear with me a minute. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to push my bearing or my U-joint into the cap, and then I'm just going to tap my cap into my yoke a little further. So that, I got my vise open a little too far. Didn't want to grip it, I just wanted it laying there. There. Now I should be able to swing this thing over far enough to get the other side started with having my center part be on bearings on both sides. There we go. Now we're going to give this a little squeeze with the vise to just press them in there a ways. And we'll do the rest with the ball joint press. Okay, making sure everything feels good. Give this guy a tap. Okay, well, this is not always a problem-free endeavor. So I've made a little mistake here. So let me show you what's happened. I'm going to hold you over this cap. Let's get the ball joint press out of the way. Maybe you can see it. That cap is a little crooked. So it's higher here than on this side. Hopefully you can see that. Shouldn't have to see it because that means I screwed up and I got my cap going in there crooked, and now I've kind of mispositioned my U-joint so it won't slide into there. I've got to get that straightened out and make sure now, hopefully none of my little needle bearings will come loose in there, but this might be a U-joint coming back out to fix that. I just wound up being a little crooked at some point, and then I pressed with the ball joint press and made the situation worse. So, you know, some of the stuff you just got to be dang careful, and I wasn't careful enough. So let me see if I can sort this out. I'll probably swear a little, so I may set the camera down. All right, well, just what I told you you did not want to let happen happened. So you can see a little gap in our needle bearings, and there's one of those damn things laying along the top of my U-joint. Two of them, as it turns out. So that went horribly. So I'm going to start over and do this differently. I'll tell you what I think is happening. I think my ball joint press is pressing it crooked because it seems like I'm all good. I can float that thing back and forth until I start pressing with the ball joint press. And that's when my cap goes crooked a little, and then it binds, and that's what's pushing my needle bearing off. So I'm going to knock the other cup out and start over here and do it a different way. I'll do it with the vise all the way. You've seen me complain before about the messy garage. The reason I complain is because when it's messy, I do things like this. I knock a whole box of bolts off on the ground and they go under the car and all over the place. And so that's why I hate a messy garage. I hate working in a messy garage. So yeah, that's why. All right, guys. Well, I suppose this is what's called foreshadowing, right? When early on in the video, the person you're watching explains all the things that you should not do when you're doing U-joint installations, and then proceeds to do all those things he just described, telling you not to do. So I went ahead and just tore into the other end of the drive shaft here. And I pressed the cap in from the one side, and then I pushed my, I have my U-joint over against it, slid it out a little bit, pushed the cap in from the other side, took my ball joint press, pressed it all the way down in there, put my clip in, went to press it in on the other side to put the clip in, and let me show you what I got here. I have now got a U-joint that will not move, okay? No clip on this side. Let me grab the light here. So no clip over here, no room for a clip. I have the clip in over here. But if we look really close, right down in here, see that gap between my rubber boot and my cast part of my U-joint? That is about the thickness of a needle bearing. So I'm pretty sure I knocked one out of that cap. And it is now laying sideways in there. And that means it's time to take this U-joint out and start over again. So I'm done for tonight. I don't have that in me. It's Formula One weekend, Australia. I'm going to go in and turn on some Formula One and leave this drive shaft for after my patience quotient has refilled itself, because right now I'm a little frustrated and I'm out of patience. So I'll go collect myself, and I'll see you next time around when I have this thing sorted out.